Good morning, everyone. Today, we continue our journey into translation theory and practice by focusing on how to analyze a text before translating it. As translators, we are not just language converters, we are interpreters of meaning, culture, and intention. The key question we will ask throughout today's lecture is, what factors do we need to consider before and during translation? Less than number, greater than number. Peter Newmark outlines 10 essential aspects that shape how a text should be translated. Let's go through them. First, the idiolect of the author, the personal style or voice. Should we preserve this unique style, or should we normalize it for the target audience? For example, Hemingway's short, clipped sentences are part of his identity. If we smooth them out, we may lose the flavor of the original. Second, the conventions of the genre. Think of how different a newspaper article is from a legal document or a poem. Each has expectations in grammar and vocabulary. Third, we must identify culture-specific references. For instance, the Vietnamese term Tet. Do we keep it or do we translate it as Lunar New Year? Fourth, the format of the text. A journal article, a newspaper column, or a textbook. Each carries its own structure and traditions. Fifth, the expectations of the readership. Who are they? What do they know? Importantly, Newmark reminds us that we should not translate down or up to our readers, but rather aim for clarity and naturalness. Now, Newmark also repeats some of these considerations for the target language context. For example, what are the conventions, the cultural items, and the typical format in the target language? Ninth, we must consider the objective reality being described, what is happening independent of the author and the readers. And finally, the biases of the translator. Each of us carries assumptions, political, cultural, religious, even gender-related. These can unconsciously affect the way we translate. Pause to students. What do you think? Can you recall a time when your personal view influenced how you would translate a word or phrase? Less than number, greater than number. Newmark suggests that translation is a process of materialization, from reading to defining the intention, to identifying text style, readership, setting, quality, and finally the last reading. This is not a one-way process, it is cyclical. Sometimes after translating, we must go back and reanalyze the intention or the readership again. Less than number, greater than number. When we start with a text, our first duty is to read it. This sounds obvious, but many translators jump straight into translating without deep reading. We have two levels: general reading, where we identify the subject matter and key concepts; close reading, where we go deeper. Out of context, we look at literal meaning. In context, we interpret meaning. Take the example of the Bienjong article from Wikipedia. If we read literally, we might say Bienjong equals East Sea. But in English, the internationally recognized term is South China Sea. The decision here shows how close reading requires us to interpret beyond literal meaning. Less than number, greater than number. The next step is to ask, what is the author's intention? Titles can sometimes be misleading. For example, a headline may sound neutral, but the body of the text may reveal bias. The author's attitude shapes vocabulary. Think of how the same event could be described as a riot, a protest, or a revolution. Each word frames the event differently. Our job is to uncover the author's point of view before translating. Less than number, greater than number. Traditionally, the translator's intention should align with the author's. But here is a question: should a translator ever diverge? For instance, if the source text uses offensive terms, should we reproduce them faithfully or adapt for our readership? This remains an ethical debate in translation studies. Less than number, greater than number. Eugene Nida and Charles Tauber famously defined translation as producing the closest natural equivalence of the message, first in meaning and then in style. They identified 4 text styles: narrative, action-oriented, verbs dominate. Example, he burst in. Description, static, focusing on adjectives. Example, the sea is blue. Discussion, abstract thought, logic, Argumentation. Example, the president decreed a week of mourning. Dialogue. Conversational, using colloquial expressions and emphatic language. Each style requires a slightly different strategy when translating. Prompt. I'd like you to think, how would you translate the sentence, he burst in, into Vietnamese? Would you choose a neutral verb like vào or a more dynamic one like song vào? Your choice changes the style. Less than number, greater than number. Readers in the source and target languages are rarely the same. In the SL, you might have educated experts. In the TL, your readers could be laypersons. We often divide readers into three categories: the expert, the educated layperson, and the uninformed. A good translator anticipates which group is most likely to read the translation. Also, think about sociolinguistics, men's and women's language, generational differences. These too can influence style choices. Less than number, greater than number. Another crucial question: where will this translation be published? Is it for an academic journal, a news website, or a government report? This affects how we handle titles, subtitles, and even paragraph length. A journal article might tolerate long, complex sentences. A newspaper article will not. As translators, we must adapt not only the words, but also the format and presentation. Less than number, greater than number. Some texts are beautifully written, others are full of clichés and poor grammar. Should we improve a badly written text when translating it? Some argue yes, our readers deserve clarity. Others argue no, we should remain faithful to the original, even if it is clumsy. This is a dilemma you may face often in practice: less than number, greater than number. The final step is a last careful reading of your translation, paying special attention to cultural terms. For example, Jean, Jen, Chua, Mieux. How do we translate these? A simple temple is inadequate. Sometimes we must borrow the term and add an explanation, or consider kinship terms. In Vietnamese, we have many forms of uncle, while English has just one. Here, strategies like glossing or footnotes may help. Always remember, the dictionary is your friend, but not your master. Use it to explore ranges of meaning and collocations, not just single equivalents. Less than number, greater than number. To conclude, analyzing a text before translating it is not just an academic exercise, it is the foundation of good translation. By considering author's style, cultural references, readership, intention, and our own biases, we produce translations that are not only accurate but also meaningful in the target culture. For our next session, I'd like you to pick a short Vietnamese article of your choice and prepare a short analysis using Newmark's 10 considerations. Be ready to discuss which factors gave you the greatest challenge: less than number, greater than number,